What is going on, y'all? This is Pay Me in Dividends, and today is March 9th, 2025. Now, today I want to do something a little different than usual, and I want to talk about a topic that is very interesting to me, and it actually applies to me, and it may apply to you as well, but here it is, right? So it's Geoarbitrage along with high yield dividends. Now, before we get into it, I want to show you exactly why I thought about this, right? So I came across a channel. It is called Passive Income Investing, and it's a guy who's on YouTube. He's been on YouTube for a while now, and he basically talks about high yield income ETFs. Now, this guy is Canadian, and so he gives a lot of I guess recommendations or opinions and just information on Canadian high yield ETFs. But as you can see here, he also talks about US ETFs and whatnot. But I think the biggest takeaway from his channel is the fact that he actually moved overseas on his passive income. Now, of course, he has other sources of income as well. As you can see, he has a pretty big channel, so he's probably making money off of YouTube and other business ventures as well. But you can see that he does have a pretty big portfolio here. You see about 1.6 million dollars. And the cool thing about his channel is he actually shows how he moved over to Panama, the country of Panama, right, as a Canadian, and he moved over there with his wife, I believe. She's in a few videos as well. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. He has a pretty good channel. If you guys haven't seen him before, I would definitely recommend checking him out. He's probably one of the first channels that I caught on to probably a couple years ago when I first started really getting into dividend investing. But the whole idea here is really just taking your money and then going to a country that is a lot more affordable, right? This is assuming if you're an American, Canadian, Australian, British, right, you're from one of these Western countries where the average income is higher than most. You invest that money, you turn it into investment income, and then you move to a more affordable country, right? So these are just a couple thoughts that I kind of put down on paper here. And again, this isn't everything. Of course, there's so many other things and factors and everybody's circumstances are different, but these are just kind of a couple general key points to think about, right? It's like, first is, how much money would you need monthly to cover your expenses, right? Are you single? Are you married? Do you have children, right? You also have to account for taxes. This one right here is a bare minimum, in my opinion. Account for reinvesting at least 20% of your dividend income in perpetuity. And I think that's super important, especially with high yield dividends, because the reality is, as much as I love these high yield dividends, they are a bit more risky than your traditional investments. And granted, the strategy is a lot different because they are performing options, and so they are generating that yield from those option premiums. So it is a different ball game, and options aren't going anywhere, but they do tend to fluctuate a lot more than your traditional blue chip stocks like a Coca-Cola dividend or Pepsi dividend, something like that. So I think minimum you should definitely account for at least 20% of your monthly dividend income to be reinvested back into your portfolio, just so you can keep the party going, so to speak, and continue to grow your income while you're living off of it as well, right? And then, of course, if you're a foreigner moving to another country, you have to think about visa fees, residency permits, things like that, health insurance, things like that, etc. So those are just kind of a couple things that just off the top of my head I kind of thought about, right? So the first thing I did, just to kind of step back for a second, is I went to ChatGPT, right? Of course, easy. I typed in, what are the most affordable but high quality and safe countries to move to as an American to stretch your dividend income, right? Now, I know not everybody watching this video is an American, but I'm American. and most of the audience of this channel is American, but this information can be applied to anyone in the world, right? If you're an investor, especially if you're an income investor, this information can be applied to anyone, so take this with a grain of salt. But I just wanted to get some information, right? So ChatGPT basically gave me a list of different countries, and again, this is just to kind of get your wheels turning. This isn't, the only, the definitive list of countries that you have to move to on dividend income, or else it's not going to work. Like this is just to give you a general idea of what you could actually do with this money as the cost of living in some of these countries increase, right? Like in the US, you're going to need a really, really, really big, sizable portfolio to really live a high quality life, when you can actually do it on a lot less, and it's a lot more achievable, and you can still live a high quality life. So here's just a couple few countries that they put here is like Portugal, Mexico, Malaysia, Thailand. I've been to Thailand several times, and I can vouch for it. It is a beautiful country, very affordable, and you can live a very, very high quality life, and it's very, very safe, at least, from my experience. Ecuador, Colombia, Costa Rica, Vietnam, Panama, like the guy from Passive Income Investing, Georgia, which is not Georgia the state. This is actually in Eastern Europe. It's a old Soviet, part of the Soviet Union back in the day, Eastern European. But yeah, these are just like a list of countries that you could possibly live in for a relatively affordable price, right? And you'll notice that most of the cost of living here is like $1,500 to $2,500, $1,200 to $2,000, right? Thailand, $1,000 to $1,800. I would honestly, to be honest with you, if I lived in Thailand, I would probably want to live on closer to $3,000 a month. I was actually chatting with one of my buddies who has a channel as well, Eugene Vasquez, and he gave me a range that was a bit higher than this, but not too far off, so it's still very, very affordable. But I think the bigger point is just accounting for reinvesting a portion of your income so that it doesn't dry up, also taking into account taxes and visa fees, making sure that you're in the country legally, obviously health insurance, any emergencies, if you want to fly back home and visit family, you got to think about the plane tickets and things like that. So those are just things to keep in mind as well. But this is really just a general idea of what you could do with this dividend income, where you don't necessarily have to stay where you are. Like, let's say you live in the States, you don't necessarily have to stay there and live on the dividend income, or think that it's going to take you another 30, 40, 50 years to be able to even withdraw your dividends for it to be possible, right? So down here I really just put a couple hypothetical portfolios. The first one is a bit more conservative. It's still high yield, 15% dividend yield annualized, but conservative in the high yield space, right? And so here's just a couple ETFs that kind of fit that criteria. So let's assume you have like a 3 ETF portfolio, right? Let's say GPIC from Goldman Sachs, which is based off the NASDAQ. We have another one, QQQI, which is based off of the NASDAQ from NEOS. And we have XDTE, which is based off of the S&P 500 from Roundhill, right? And notice how all 3 of these are indexed, right? Meaning that it is not reliant on a single company. It is all based off of an index. And that is kind of what you want, especially if you're living off of this income. You want something that is a bit more, stable, something that is tied to the index. And I say that myself, even as someone who is invested into MISTI and MVDY and AMZP, which are based off of, single companies, but I do also have XDTE in my portfolio, and I plan on slowly diversifying more into the indexes over time as well. But let's just assume like a 3 ETF portfolio, right? So out of these three, if you combine these three equally weighted in a portfolio, you get about a 15% yield as of what they're paying out as of today, basically, right? And so 15%, let's say you would need about $5,000 a month, right? Let's say you live in one of these affordable countries, right, that we looked at, and let's say you need about $2,500 a month to live. That would mean you would probably want double that, right? Because you want that buffer. Again, you want to be able to reinvest a portion of that. You want to be able to account for taxes. You want to be able to account for insurance and other things like that. So let's say on the low end, you would need about $5,000 a month in consistent dividend income. Then, with a 15% portfolio yield, that's about $400,000 total portfolio value. Now, that is a lot of money, but compared to traditional, investments, compared to something like S&P 500 ETF like VOO or VTI, right? Or QQQ on the NASDAQ, you're going to need like a couple $1,000,000 in order to generate this type of dividend income every single year, right? $60,000 a year or $5,000 a month. But with this portfolio, which is still relatively safe, you would need a lot less, right? And now if we move down here and look at a 25% portfolio yield, you would only need $240,000 in total portfolio value, right? So now it's even less, right? It goes from $400,000 down to $240,000, which will generate about $5,000 a month. And again, guys, this is just rough numbers. This is very vague, very general. You could even go higher on this yield, if you have some Misty in there, if you have a couple Yield Max or just some other high yielding ETFs like FEPI from Rex, or even a QDTE from Brownhill, which as of today they're paying about 35% yield, and this is a covered call strategy based off of the NASDAQ, right? And they pay on a weekly basis. You have SPY-T here that pays a 20% yield annualized. So these are just a couple different ETFs that are more so tied to the index. And again, this isn't I don't think this video is much about it's not really it's more so just a mindset thing, just to show you like what other options are out there. So I hope that makes sense. I'm not gonna drag this video out too long here, but I hope you got some good information out of this. And before we go to, let's see what this actually means, right? What is Geoarbitrage? So Geoarbitrage is basically moving to a place with a lower cost of living while maintaining or increasing your income, right? And I think that's important because that is the reason why I framed this question the way I did, right? I said, what are the most affordable but high quality and safe countries to move to on dividend income, right? So it's not just about moving to the most affordable country, but then living in the middle of a battle zone, right? You want to live somewhere that's affordable, but you still want to be somewhere where it's high quality, good weather, good people, safe, and you're able to enjoy the things that you would typically enjoy back home, and have a good time while also stretching your money, right? So you guys let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about this? Is this something that you guys have thought about? I'm sure you've seen it all over online, people moving to different countries and things like that. And I think the most interesting part is, a lot of people try to figure out how to make money online, whether it's working remote or whether it's, doing coaching programs or, just selling stuff online. I don't know. There's so many different, being a TikToker. I don't know what people do anymore, but I think putting your 9 to 5 money into dividend income and then making that move, I think makes you a lot more secure, and then you're able to pursue other things along the way, right? Then you can start that YouTube channel, or you can start that online business, but at least you've created that foundation of income in order to cover your monthly expenses, so that you can get to that point, with a lot less stress. So you guys let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? I know there's a lot different than most of my videos, but it's just something that I've really been thinking about recently, and I've been seeing more content online. I feel like sometimes when you think about stuff or you have conversations with people, your phone hears it and it kind of pops up on your feed. So you guys let me know in the comments, what do you think? And as always, I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel, and I will catch you in the next video.